Welcome back to the Diva Dive. Usually when we grab a stack of research or articles for these conversations, we're looking at, I don't know, massive trends.
Right, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. AI takeovers, global economics, stuff like that. But today we are zooming all the way in. We are looking at literally a glass box of water.
And a pretty significant amount of green gunk, from what I read.
Yeah, a lot of green gunk. We are diving into a blog post that dropped, it dropped literally yesterday afternoon, February 20th, 2026.
Fresh off the press.
Right. It's from a site called kianmeng.org, and the title is Notes on Fishkeeping Part 201, Balancing Algae Growth with Malaysian Pond Snails.
Part 201. I mean, that number is going to be incredibly important later, so...
Oh, put a pin in that for sure.
Yeah.
Now, for you listening, on the surface, this might sound like a super niche post about a guy named Ang who describes himself as an old software plumber just trying to clean his aquarium.
Which it is.
Yeah.
Technically.
It is. But if you stick with us for this deep dive, I promise you this isn't really about fish. It's actually this incredible masterclass in systems thinking. It's about automation. And honestly, it's about how to live a deeply documented life.
It's basically what happens when you take the mindset of a software engineer, right? Someone who is used to building resilient, automated systems, and you apply that exact same rigor to a biological ecosystem.
Yeah.
He's not just keeping pets, he's debugging nature.
Debugging nature. I love that phrasing so much. So let's set the scene here. We have an aquarium, and we have a bug.
The bug being the algae, specifically the algae on the front glass of the tank.
Right. Aang writes that the front surface of the tank is just covered in the stuff. And, I mean, for anyone listening who has ever had a fish tank, you know this struggle.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's so unsightly. You can't even see the fish. It's just messy.
It really is the bane of every aquarist.
Yeah.
And the typical user response here, if we're going to stick to the tech metaphors...
Which we definitely are.
Of course. The typical response is manual intervention. You grab a magnetic scraper or razor blade or a sponge, you stick your arm in the water, and you scrub.
Which is wet, it stresses the fish out, and frankly, it's just boring.
It's highly inefficient. In the software world, we call that toil. It's this manual, repetitive work that scales terribly.
Right, because if you have one tank, fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you have 10 tanks, you're scrubbing all day. A software plumber doesn't want to scrub. He wants to write a script that does the scrubbing for him.
And in this case, that script is a snail. Specifically, the Malaysian Pond Snail.
Radix sp for the taxonomy enthusiast listening.
Radix sp. Now, I have to stop here for a second because I've always heard that snails are the bad guys in a fish tank.
They get a bad rap.
They do. People buy chemicals specifically to nuke snails because they take over everything. So why is he introducing them on purpose?
Well, that's the risk calculation he's making. You're totally right. Radix snails are often considered pests because they reproduce incredibly fast. They're kind of like the spam email of the aquarium world. But they are voracious algae eaters. Aang is essentially betting that he can utilize their hunger as a feature rather than a bug.
He's deploying a virus to kill a virus.
In a way, yeah. He introduces this population to the tank.
Yeah.
And looking at the report from yesterday, the results are wildly impressive.
Yeah. In less than a week, the snails effectively wiped the glass clean. The script ran successfully.
Flawlessly.
But, and this is where the post really grabbed me, he doesn't just say, it worked, look at my clean tank. He admits that the test conditions were actually flawed. He mentions a lighting issue.
The user error. This is honestly my favorite part of the entire post. He admits that the LED lights were accidentally left on for several days straight.
Which is basically rocket fuel for algae, right?
Oh, absolutely. Light plus nutrients equals algae. Leaving the lights on 24/7 is a worst-case scenario. It's like stress testing a server by just flooding it with traffic to see if it crashes.
But he documents it. He says the algae has begun to grow back, largely due to the LED lights being left on. Yeah.
Most people, especially on social media today, they would just edit that out. They'd want to look like the perfect, flawless fish keeper.
But you have to remember, he's an old software plumber. In the open source philosophy, you don't hide the bugs.
Right, you document them.
Exactly. You document the crash so you can understand the system limits. By leaving the lights on, he inadvertently proved just how robust the snails are. Even with the system fighting against them, pumping out algae because of all that excess light, the snails were still managing to keep the glass relatively clear.
So the mistake actually validated the efficiency of his solution.
It did. It served as a proof of concept under heavy load. Now he knows that if he fixes the lighting schedule, basically patching the root cause, the snails are going to be even more effective. He's turned a total blunder into a valuable data point.
Okay, so the patch works. The snails are eating the algae. But now he's shifting gears in the post. He's not just happy with a clean tank anymore. He's looking at this tank as a production facility.
He says he wants to breed them to a, quote, sustainable population, and designate the tank as a dedicated breeding ground.
This is the scalability phase of his project. He's realized this solution works on one server, the first tank, so now he wants to roll it out to the rest of his network.
Right.
He plans to harvest these snails once they reach a specific size and relocate them to his other tanks.
It's a full rollout strategy. But here's the thing about snails, and you mentioned they're like spam. They multiply.
Very fast.
So what happens when the solution becomes the problem? Like, what if he wakes up next month and the tank is just a solid block of snails?
Well, any good engineer builds a kill switch into a system like that. You need an abort sequence.
Yeah.
And Aang actually has one. He explicitly discusses his contingency plan for uncontrollable population growth.
It's not pretty.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Option A is manual removal, the brute force method.
Just plucking them out.
Right, which nobody wants to do, doesn't scale. But option B, that's biological warfare.
Yeah, he lists potential predators, he mentions loaches and pufferfish, but then he gets very specific. He says, zebra cichlids that I currently have in my collection.
That detail is crucial. He isn't saying, I'll go to the pet store and buy a fish to solve this.
Right.
He's saying, I already have the resources in my inventory to handle an overflow.
I looked up zebra cichlids before we started recording. These aren't your friendly little community goldfish. They are aggressive, they're territorial, and they love eating invertebrates.
They are the enforcers of this ecosystem. Think of it like load balancing in a computer network.
Okay, break that down.
Sure. So if the traffic, in this case the snail population, gets too high and threatens to overwhelm the server, he simply redirects that traffic to a processing node, the cichlids, that wipes it out.
Wow.
He's viewing his entire house, all his different tanks, as one interconnected ecosystem. He moves resources around to maintain homeostasis.
It's ruthless, but it's completely logical. He's not being cruel about it. He's just maintaining system stability.
And that is the software plumber mindset in a nutshell. It's not about sentimentality. It's about flow. The flow of nutrients, the flow of light, the flow of populations. If a pipe leaks, you fix it. If a pipe bursts, you shut off the main. The cichlids are the shut-off valve.
It's funny because when you frame it like that, it makes total sense, but I want to zoom out for a second. Because while the snail strategy is really cool, what actually blew my mind was when I started looking at the sidebar of his website.
The archives.
The archives. We said earlier this was Notes on Fishkeeping Part 201.
Which is already a massive amount of writing for just one hobby.
Exactly. But then I scrolled down. Notes on Gardening Part 814.
814.
Notes on Photography Part 229. Notes on Haskell Programming, which for you listening is this super complex mathematical coding language, Part 64.
The sheer volume is staggering. I actually ran the numbers based on the source sidebar. We are in February 2026. The month isn't even over yet. Do you know how many posts he has published just in February?
I counted 63.
63 posts in roughly 20 days. That's 3 posts a day. And this isn't a sprint. If you look back at 2025 or 2024, he averages about 730 posts a year.
That's 2 posts every single day for years. Who has the time for that? I struggle to write 1 coherent email a day. How is he doing this?
I think we have to go back to his bio on the site. He says, musings of an old software plumber, tinkering with free Libre and open source software, which we call FLABLAS.
FLABLAS, right. Can you break that acronym down for us?
Sure. The Libre is the key part there. It means free as in freedom, not just free as in free beer. The core ethos of that entire community is transparency and documentation.
Okay.
If you solve a problem, you share the code. If you learn something, you write it down so the next person doesn't have to start from scratch. Aang has taken that professional ethic, that fundamental requirement to document code, and applied it to his entire life.
So his actual life is the open source project.
Precisely. Whether he is debugging a network issue in Notes on Networking Part 7, or figuring out why his red panda plant is drooping in Gardening Part 814, he treats it with equal weight.
It's all just data points in the system of Aang.
Yes. It's a digital garden in the truest sense of the phrase.
But what I love is the diversity of the topics. You see notes on dieting, notes on meditation, notes on guitar, and then right next to it, notes on Rust programming and notes on Elixir Erlang.
It's the mark of a true polymath. But do you notice the pattern in how he writes?
What do you mean?
He doesn't compartmentalize his thinking. He uses the exact same analytical eye for a betta fish spawn log as he does for a Pearl weekly challenge.
That's a really great point. He doesn't switch modes. He doesn't say, okay, now I'm the emotional pet owner, and then now I'm the cold, logical coder.
Yeah.
He's always the debugger.
And that consistency is what makes the blogs so readable, despite the volume. When he writes about photography, like Part 229, lessons in urban exploration, he's looking for light, composition, angles. He's analyzing the visual system.
Yeah.
When he looks at the aquarium, he's analyzing the biological system. It's all just pattern recognition to him.
It makes me think about that bug we mentioned earlier with the fish tank, the algae. In a corporate or software setting, we'd call that technical debt.
Oh, that is a brilliant analogy, yes.
Right, because you let the system run without proper maintenance, you leave the lights on, and you accumulate debt in the form of algae. The snails are just the automated script you run to pay down that technical debt.
Exactly. And the blog itself, -keyandbang.org-keynml, is the system log. You know, in IT, if a server crashes, the first thing anyone screams is, check the logs. You need to know exactly what happened at 3 p.m. By documenting his life with this level of granularity, Ang is essentially creating a manual for his own existence.
He can just look back and say, oh, in February 2026, I tried this lighting schedule and it completely failed. Won't do that again.
It solves the problem of human memory. I can't remember what I had for lunch last Tuesday. He knows exactly what the water pH was in his tank 3 years ago.
And he shares it. That's the fly-ass part. He's not keeping a private, locked-away diary. He's putting it on the interweb, as he calls it. It's this massive act of generosity. He's saying, here is what I learned today. Maybe it saved you some time.
It's funny, looking at the titles of his posts, Notes on Gardening Part 805, The Graceful Sway of Plants. That's almost poetic.
It is.
But then right next to it is Notes on Haskell Programming Part 58, Why Maine is Unique. It's this seamless blend of the highly technical and the naturally beautiful.
I think for someone like Ang, the technical is beautiful. There is an aesthetic beauty in a Haskell function that executes perfectly without any side effects.
Yeah.
Just like there is beauty in a snail population that perfectly balances an ecosystem, they are both systems finding equilibrium.
That's very true.
But does it ever feel, I don't know, obsessive to write 3 times a day, every day?
Honestly, I don't think so. If you read the tone of his posts, like his standard sign-off, yours truly, and it's very calm. He isn't trying to go viral.
Definitely no clickbait.
None at all. Balancing algae growth with Malaysian pond snails is the most literal dry title possible.
It's almost anti-marketing.
It is anti-performance. When you completely remove the pressure to be entertaining for an audience and focus on just being accurate to your own experience, the volume becomes manageable. He's just transcribing his observations. He's the court stenographer of his own life.
And that consistency builds a massive compounding asset. Think about that gardening series being at part 814. That is likely hundreds of thousands of words and photos over the years. That is a data set that a professional botanist would kill for.
Absolutely.
And he built it just by showing up every day.
It's the old software plumber wisdom again. You don't build a massive, complex system overnight. You lay one pipe at a time. You fix one leak at a time. You document one bug at a time.
So looking ahead, what's the next step for our snail experiment?
Well, based on the logs, he's moving firmly into the distribution phase. He's going to seed his other tanks with the Radix snails. I'll be really curious to see, and I'm sure we can find out in Fishkeeping Part 205, if the different tank environments yield different results.
He mentioned Miscalophthisius spawn logs in his sidebar, too. He probably has a dozen different microclimates in his house.
Which means more variables, more data, more debugging.
And probably more user errors to learn from along the way.
Hopefully fewer involving the main light timer, though.
Fingers crossed on that one. So let's distill this down for you listening. If you have a fish tank and you're fighting the green battle on the glass, Malaysian pond snails, Radix berry, they work fast on algae.
But check your light timers. Don't be the user error.
Good advice. And keep a zebra cichlid in your back pocket, or at least know where to get one, just in case the snail solution becomes the snail problem.
Always have a rollback plan for your systems.
Always. But the bigger lesson here, really, is about the notes themselves. It's about the power of small, consistent documentation. Ang isn't sitting down to write a novel every day. He's writing 200-word updates. But because he does it 800 times, he has essentially created an encyclopedia.
We often feel like we need to produce something massive to be valuable. A published book, a thesis, a huge project. Ang teaches us that the value is actually in the granular, the day-to-day.
Yeah.
If you pay close attention to the small things, the algae on the glass, the sway of a plant, the syntax of a line of code, and you take the time to write it down, you eventually build a mountain of wisdom.
So here's my question for you listening right now. We all have snails in our lives, little problems we are constantly tinkering with. If you started documenting your life with the granularity of an old software plumber, if you were writing notes on cooking part 201 or notes on parenting part 814, what patterns would you start to see?
That's the real question. Would you finally see your own bugs? Would you see the user errors you just keep repeating?
Or maybe, would you realize you've actually solved a lot more problems than you give yourself credit for?
I think most of us would be very surprised by the data if we actually tracked it.
I think so too. Maybe it's time to open a blank text file and just start. Part 1. Thanks for diving in with us today. Keep observing and keep documenting.
Till the next post.